But if you really like keep it simple, then it's like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try a bunch of shit. I may fail. I may make $1 billion. Hey, who cares? Let's go.
I think a lot of people don't spend enough time assessing whether their thoughts from previous upbringing or previous people in their life, it's whatever it is, right? There's tons of experiences you have in life that condition you.
Becoming a good thinker comes from becoming a good observer. You cannot build a great organization while trying to survive. Impossible. In order for you to build a 7-figure company, you need to build a platform that delivers 7 figures worth.
In order to make a living, and you have that outcome tied to it now, you're outcome dependent. It loses, it's no longer a passion. It's not a hobby. It's like, it's survival.
So Serge, why do you think that most business owners fail to scale their business?
I think that bottleneck stems from them not understanding that they need to track data, or they need to track the activities that they're putting in every day. So a lot of founders, when you get started, the reason why you'll succeed is actually mostly from volume of activities, right? So you do everything and anything, and something ends up working. But the issue is that that's not a scalable process where you can just keep doing more and more and more, because your time at some point is just maxed out. So eventually you need to start tracking all the activities and base it off of each like channel, and then look at which one overperforms or performs better, and then cut out everything else and just focus on the one thing. So it's almost like an activity of like you do a bunch of tests and it takes up a lot of your time, but then eventually you need to look at all the tests and look at, okay, which one performs the best, and then everything else you just shut it down. So founders who aren't tracking their metrics and their volume, then you can't really make that decision of knowing what to cut out. So they keep doing everything. And sometimes they forget to do the right things, so they don't get the right results.
I'm a very like right-brained person, for example. I find myself very creative but struggling with logical tasks. And so for a business owner who finds himself in that same kind of position, how would you give them advice to approach being able to be more numbers oriented?
So, I mean, it depends on where you're going, right? I started, recently focusing on something which is like, you could try to get better at something, or you could just look at where you're trying to take your company. If you're trying to make it scale into multiple 7 figures, 8 figures, then the best path is probably not you becoming something that you're not. It's probably just finding someone who you can hire to do the thing. Because even if you spend time becoming better at that thing, it's like, okay, that's only scalable to a certain point. Eventually, you'll need to stop doing it, because if you're trying to scale, you're not going to scale by doing everything that is right. You're just going to stick to doing what actually is what you like doing, So don't force yourself. I mean, as an example, I don't necessarily build the systems. Even though I'm talking about let's track data, I'm not the one tracking it, because I wouldn't want to do it in my company, right?
Right.
So start with the end in mind and just reverse engineer who needs to be in your organization to do the thing you don't want done, but make sure that it's being done for sure.
Right. Cool. We had a really good conversation last night over dinner about finding the right people to delegate decision making to. So I'd love to just dive into that a little bit. Like, what is your thought process with that? What challenges have you faced? Let's get into that.
Yeah. I'm in this situation where it's like there's a lot of things that I know how to do. Like, to scale the business, I know how to do it, but it's not, knowing it is not going to make it happen, right? So you get to a point where you're like, I'm actually listening while coming here to this podcast from the guy you mentioned, Alex. And I've been just going deep into his pod. Crazy, right?
Good,
and he talks about this process where the reason why, which I just mentioned a little bit, it's like to go from 0 to 1 comes from just busy work. You get conditioned to do a lot of work to be the hustler, right? But in order for you to go from 1 to 10, you need to uncondition yourself to this condition, which is like, oh, the way I get successful is I come up with an idea and I implement today, right? You tell me about this guy, Alex, who talks about operations. I get back home, I listen to a podcast by him, and I just research a bunch of stuff. And then I'm probably going to want to do the thing that he's mentioning. But you know what? An 8-figure person would probably not do that, or a 9-figure person would just be like, hey guys, I think this guy is someone you guys should be listening to. Please go learn everything he's teaching.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but the mistake that I've made, or that at least I'm learning as I go, is don't hire for potential, hire for experience. So don't look at someone, be like, oh, wow, this person could potentially be good. No, it's like, hey, have you done this before?
Mm-hmm.
And show me the roadmap to getting there. Because when you start hiring for potential, it becomes so intensive, and so there's so much pressure on you because you need to do the thing you were already doing. And you also need to lift up everyone because they're like, they have the potential, but they don't know shit. So it's like, now you're doing the work, and you also have to, at the same time, teach them how to do the work. So it's like,
right.
that's where it's like the gap to go from $1 million a year or a few millions a year to like past 8 figures is insanely hard.
Right.
Because it's counterintuitive. It's like, I got here by doing a lot of things, having a lot of control, but to get to the next level, I have to give up control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, it tears you up from within. So that's why it's like, hey, don't hire if the person hasn't done it before. Because if you do that, you're going to go through a lot of pain, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, that's one of the things that I've really grown to appreciate about you is that you've become very good at thinking. And I think that's a very underrated skill to have. I think a lot of people don't spend enough time assessing whether their thoughts from, previous upbringing or previous people in their life, it's whatever it is, right? There's tons of experiences you have in life that condition you. And a lot of people do not focus on the deprogramming and reversing that conditioning. And that's exactly what we're talking about. It's just like, you need to do that in order to get to the next level. A lot of people get stuck there.
1000%. I think becoming a good thinker comes from becoming a good observer, right? Because if you don't observe things and see different insights, you're not really going to change your thought process. So as an example, like for me, I just like to look at, we're talking about, maybe it could be a good next subject, is like building an audience, right? So as an example, as we help businesses grow. We know the Facebook ad, we know the funnels, we know the follow-up, we know the importance of creating, intent in the prospect to buy. We know all these things. We know whatever, hook people on a video, blah, 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 right? But you need to look at yourself and be like, okay, but why am I not scaling?
Yeah.
And the way you look at why you're not scaling, well, you need to look at someone who's scaled.
Right.
And then you need to reverse engineer and look at, okay, but where are they spending most of their time? What are they doing? Not how can I get better at Facebook ad? Because if you keep trying to just get scaling the scale, like, I need to just get good at these like little like skills, like these verticals of like just specific scale, that's not really how you scale. Because at some point, a specific scale applied to the wrong leverage is also not leveraged. Applying Facebook ad to a brick and mortar business, okay, cool. The biggest case study you'll ever have is like, okay, you got them a few leads, a few deals a month. But if you apply it to, let's say, a product that has zero marginal cost, like an info product or like a SaaS, then that case study, that same skill applied to that becomes potentially a 9-figure scale.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So we were talking about, something that I've been observing lately. I was listening to this podcast, My First Million, and they had the guy, Derek, from More Plates, More Dates. And they said that, they guessed that he was making like around 6 to 8 million a month. And for me, like when I heard that, I was like, come on, what? That's insane. And for me, it threw me off of this thing, which is like, this is like, now I understand the importance of content and building an audience, right? Because if this guy is just creating content, talking about fitness supplements and maybe creating some entertainment stuff on YouTube, and he's able to build behind that audience a brands that generates him like almost 9 figures a year. And then you have on this side a bunch of smart ass entrepreneurs who can't even make 10 grand a month. Like for me, it's like, whoa, but like, how does this add up? So like it creates it just doesn't make sense for me. And then it creates even more urgency to doing the thing that is creating the success for him, at least, which is like the audience, then attach whatever you can want, and you're going to scale faster than the brightest entrepreneurs and smartest marketers, right? So
yeah, and that's a very, very good point. When we were talking about that, I was thinking about that a lot. After dinner, I was just reflecting on that. I'm like, this actually doesn't make sense. Like this is like an unfair advantage, this audience thing, right? It's like, you have people doing all the traditional things, cold outreach, ads, all of these traditional acquisition mechanisms, but they're not providing the same return, not even in the same ballpark, to get to 6 to 7 million a month.
Insane.
Like, how would you even put in the inputs, right? We're talking about tracking. It's like, what the fuck would those numbers look like, right?
Yeah.
But with an audience, it really creates this unfair advantage, which I think, it's like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you start building your audience?
Yeah. So, just an idea. So I was working my last job was, like 3 years ago, was working at a Good Food, right? And they were probably spending like a lot of money, like millions and millions of dollars per month on ads. And, with when the pandemic happened, like they got a spike in sales because more people would buy. They didn't want to go to the grocery store, whatever. But like imagine that type of business behind a brand of someone who's a chef with like 1 million subs on YouTube. They would never have to advertise.
Right.
And it was a weekly subscription. I think they scaled to like $500 million in revenue a year. But they were crazy hard on advertising. But it's like that business versus you find an actual influencer or someone with an audience, and then you attach that type of offer.
Right.
Then like the retention on such a subscription is just way greater than if you just acquire someone on utility. Meaning, because the main selling points are like, oh, don't go to the grocery store, don't cook yourself or whatever. It's like utility. It's like they're saving you time, it's convenience. But if you attach a personal brand, people are not buying convenience anymore. People are buying you. So whatever you put out, even if it's expensive, people are going to buy because they want to do business with you. So now the sales angle, it doesn't need to exist.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And, when you think about it in a grandiose way, you think about the biggest influencers, or even the ones that everyone will recognize, like Kim Kardashian, she's telling you to go buy Skims. Like, you're gonna go buy it. It doesn't matter. You're not worried about the quality of the fabric. You're not worried about any of those things. You're just like, well, Kim said to do it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why the ladies go crazy for the Kardashians and the Jenners. They'll just do it. Like, they're like, okay, you have beautiful lips. I want lips like that. Like, what are you using? Oh, you're selling this? Okay, I got it. So
a really interesting point that you guys touched on yesterday that would be great to get into was mimetic desire. How did that conversation get started yesterday?
I think Nick was asking me like, hey, what is the end goal? I guess with the company. And I was just saying the fact that, as much as I want to play the game and I want to become good, I also don't want to get lost in the copying other people's goals and like dreams and lifestyle.
Right.
I want to just play the game my way. Like, I'm still going to work. I love getting up and just learning the next thing, learning how to build a team and learn how to scale. But at some point, I think I'm going to get to a point where I'm like, okay, cool, guys, this is enough. Let's just do what we want to do. Let's not play I want to get to 9-figure a year. I want to become a billionaire. Like,
right.
I don't care. I'm not going to copy your goals because everyone literally, like, if you look at how just look at the marketing industry. You start adding captions on your videos, everybody adds them. You start giving away free stuff, everybody does it. You start marketing a certain way, you start doing podcasts, you start wanting to become a 9-figure person, everybody's like, oh, I want to hit 9 figures. Everybody gets an exit, everybody wants an exit.
It's true.
Everybody wants to get to 100K a month. Oh, you feel like until I hit 100K a month, I'm not worth shit. I'm like, no, like, you guys are just around copying people's desires. It's not really even your own desire. It's just we're just copying people all around. So when you lack the awareness around your desires, you end up just going through the spiral of just chasing things and things and things and things, and it never ends.
Right. That brought a thought in my mind because it's kind of funny. It comes almost full circle. It's like, entrepreneurs, typically it's like you might be working a job, a 9 to 5, and you hate it because you're getting up early, you're sitting in traffic, you're commuting somewhere, you're going to an office or whatever the job is that you're doing, and you want to escape this cycle, and you feel like you're stuck in the rat race. But then, what happens is you end up kind of repeating the process when you get into, like, entrepreneurship is the biggest rat race.
Biggest one. Biggest one.
You end up entering that, and then, like, to your point, it's like it never ends because there's always someone bigger and better than you. So it's just like you're constant. And it's like, when is enough? Like, when, and I think that's a very personal question you need to ask yourself. Everybody. You need to evaluate, like, what is the point that I want to reach, and, like, when am I going to feel accomplished? Because I think that's a big problem with entrepreneurs. It's like sometimes you just feel like you're never enough.
Yeah. Super important to design what you want, and it's not like what you want is not going to be influenced by something else either. It's like it will just be influenced by something, but at least choose it. Like, choose your desire. So as an example, I like cars, and maybe me liking cars probably came from me seeing someone, or at least experiencing somewhat, looking at a persona or a character who was living the life I wanted, and maybe they were driving nice cars. But it's like, I'm totally aware. And then if I like Porsche, it's because I probably see someone, an entrepreneur, who is living this specific life that I want to live. If they drive a Porsche, I'm going to go Porsche, right? But I also don't run around just being like, I like nice cars, let me go get. No, it's like, no, I want it and I choose it. And I'm totally aware that it's been influenced by this other person. But I'm not going to go around chasing these, like, hustling around just to try to chase a figure. Because that's the thing that makes you, like, puts you on a certain pedestal in society. No, I'm gonna play this game my fucking way. And I don't care if I represent something cool or not. Like, I'm just gonna play this game. I'm gonna be cool at doing shit my way, making the least amount of money doing my way, So yeah,
I love, Nick, that you said entrepreneurship is the real rat race. And a lot of entrepreneurs get into entrepreneurship to quote unquote escape the matrix. And I heard someone say similar to something that you just said, that entrepreneurship is the matrix, right? And a lot of people are under this impression that institutions want them to be part of, like, this industrialized manufacturing line and part of the cycle and part of the system. But these institutions want you even more to get into entrepreneurship and build product that's going to get taxed to millions of people and create additional income in the economy and create jobs and do everything else. That's pretty funny. Another story that really kind of speaks to the whole mimetic desires thing. Before I get into it, Nick, if you don't mind, just so we can lead into the footage with Serge, do you mind kind of saying, the other day we talked about mimetic desires, which is, and then explain what it is for, like, the layman's viewer?
Absolutely. So the other day we talked about mimetic desires, and what that means is it's derived from the word mimic, which is to emulate or imitate other people's desires. So they see something that someone else is doing, and they're basically copying that unconsciously. They're not realizing that it's coming from somewhere else or someone else, but they're doing that involuntarily. And they think that they actually want that thing, but they don't realize that it's probably been influenced from someone else or something else.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw this story the other day, and it kind of goes into not really understanding why we want the things we want, and we're just kind of following herd mentality. And it was talking about, they did this study where they put 5 monkeys in a room, and there was a ladder in the room, and at the top of the ladder there was a bushel of bananas. And every single time a monkey would try to climb the ladder, this very strong hose would go off and spray all the monkeys with freezing water. And so the monkeys learned to not go up the ladder and grab the bananas. Now every few weeks they'd get rid of one of the monkeys and they'd put a new monkey in. And so the monkey would get put in the room and he would try to go up to grab the bananas, and all of the other monkeys would grab him and pull him off and start beating him until he was bloody and bruised. And the monkey doesn't know why he's getting beaten. He doesn't know about the water, but he learns that he can't go for the bananas. And so every few weeks they would replace another monkey, and the same exercise would happen until eventually none of the original monkeys were left in the room. But all of the monkeys knew that they were not allowed to climb the ladder and grab the bananas. None of them knew about the water, but they had adopted this herd mentality and this culture and this systemization, which really kind of plays into a lot of the stuff we do today. Like a lot of the things that we do on a daily basis, the rules we follow, the best practices we believe, whether it's to, we have to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer to be successful. We don't even understand why a lot of these rules exist. We just know we have to follow them. And it's because of this kind of conditioning over generations and cycles, right?
Yeah. Something Grant Cardone says is, I don't know, but he says that like you have to ask a question you have to ask yourself, hey, what are the beliefs that I believe in today that aren't true? Because if you don't question your beliefs, man, like you can't grow, because some things defy certain laws, bro. Like so as an example, like how can you really explain, so if I just put into context, like how do you explain to go from a 30K year job to like making 30K by like before you wake up? Same human, same brain, same capabilities, just different, just same time, like maybe even less time invested. Like how do you explain that? How do you explain that to someone who hasn't done it yet? You, in order for you to go from where you're at right now to where you could be, you gotta stop believing what this person believes. So it's like until you change your beliefs, you will constantly just stay in the same position, like just be, and you think it's true and it's okay, but it's like, no, you have to question things you believe in. Like, hey, should I be selling my clients? Should I be supporting my clients, doing one-on-one calls? Should I be leading the company? Am I the best person to be running it? Should we be selling just one high ticket offer? Should I be just maybe selling people a retainer only? Should I just focus on SaaS? No, like there are no rules. It's just a matter of like sequence. But to be honest, everything should be done in the right sequence. But it's not one thing. It's like it's everything, but in the right order.
Right. That's a very good point. And I do totally think that sometimes we get caught up in our existing beliefs and we just treat it like truth and fact, and we don't question that enough. We just feel like, okay, well, yesterday or 10 years ago or however, like it's like these things I know to be true, so you don't question it. And that's probably, it's a very scary thing with the human brain, and it's like we need to learn to overcome those things and question everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so yesterday at dinner, Serge, you mentioned that the most selfish thing that you can do is to be selfless. What did you mean by that?
So one of the things that you need to do as you scale is to kind of like find these little like rules, these values that allow others to behave congruently with the actions, like, because you can't always be there to tell someone like, hey, do this, this is the right way, so you need to find values that lead their decision making. And I was coming up with the values for client acquisition at IO, and a lot of people have these weird like values. It's almost similar. It's like they just have these corporate-y like type of values, and I was just trying to find something a little different. And I was like, one of them was like, I need you to be selfish. No. It was the most selfish thing you can do is to be selfless, right? Because as you build a company, people are selfish. Like for me, that's something that I don't lie to myself. I'm selfish. My team is probably selfish. They're just thinking about themselves. So I inherently know like, hey, everyone is in it for themselves. So my goal is to try to not change them. I'm not going to change someone's selfishness. I can't do it. So, but instead, I'm going to help them be selfish. And I needed a way for them to understand that, like, if you really want to grow into this company, if you want to be taken care of, if you want to make the most amount of money in this organization, be selfless. Don't think about yourself, because I never got paid because I thought of myself. I woke up and I'm like, okay, how can I get my clients meetings? How can those meetings be qualified? How can they show up more? How can they close faster? How can they make the most amount of money on each call that they take? So, and if I get the answers on behalf of my clients for those processes, then my clients are like, hey, you did all the work, here is money. So, and then if I do that enough and I scale that, I make a shit ton more money than if I was just trying to figure out like, okay, how do I do this just for myself? So It's this idea around, if you want the best for yourself, figure out a way to get the best for a lot of people. And that's where the value came from. Be like, you know what? The fastest way to get everything you want is just think about others. Give them whatever they want, do it effortlessly for them, and do it faster than anybody else, and you're going to be taken care of inevitably. So yeah, so that was where that thing came from.
Yeah, I think that's like you said, I love that it's not corporate. It's just like, it's very real, and I think that's ultimately why people like you, I think. Is that you're down to earth, you have your own kind of authenticity, and people really vibe with that. And as a younger leader too, I think there's no need to be you're still professional, but what I mean is like not corporate. So you don't need to be corporate, can be laid back, be casual, and still get things done. And I think you've done a good job of proving that that's just as efficient as the corporate way to grow a company. So that's interesting. But I want to go back to what we were previously talking about these beliefs and breaking these beliefs. I want to know from you, like, what have you done personally that you feel like has really helped break some of your old beliefs, or how do you constantly challenge your beliefs? What advice would you give to somebody that has old beliefs that they need to get rid of?
Oh, that's a pretty hard thing to kind of like build a process around, because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So how do you know which belief to break? So you also don't want to go around breaking every belief. Like some beliefs actually serve you. But for me, one of the things that I do a lot, and to be honest, which has served me a lot, I wouldn't say that it's about beliefs, but it's about where do I source my information, right?
Okay.
Because if you stay in this little bubble of online marketers, you get the same BS advice, right? And it's totally weird. So here's where marketers, I think, go wrong. Marketers focus too much on like leading indicators, like just the flashy stuff, like how many views, how many appointments, how many leads are you getting, how many clients are you getting, right? But if you actually want to create insane amount of value, you need to have a different view. You need to start viewing the game like an investor, right? Because an investor does not care about how many leads the people got. He's caring about, hey, where is the lifetime value of each client? And are we making more than we're investing to acquire that client? So they have a more of like a bird's eye view on the thing, and not like super niche on the metrics.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So for me, a lot of the time when I'm learning a lot of stuff, or at least the podcast that I listen to, like I'll spend a lot of time, or 80% of the knowledge that I get is mainly on like strategic stuff. What makes a company valuable? Like what is valuable for someone? And I've had to like bring it down to the simplistic thing, which is everybody just wants, let's just go back to like evolutionary psychology. People, and this is something that I got from, I don't know, yesterday I was listening to a podcast, and I think Taylor Wirch mentioned it, but if you want to learn more about this, read evolutionary psychology. But there are really two things that people are seeking. People are avoiding two. People don't want to die, and they don't want to be alone. Right? That's it. Like life, like everything we're doing, everything. Like the reason why you wake up, the reason why you go work, anything, is because you want to survive, and you want to be with someone. And the reason why you want to be with someone is because you can recreate and actually make your gene. And there is this thing around in evolutionary psychology that says that like the main goal of your system, of the gene, is to recreate itself. It does not care about anything besides, hey, we need to make sure that ourselves can get duplicated, and get duplicated forever. Right? Now, that's the basic. Those are the basic inherent like desires within us by the system. Whether you're smart, dumb, you're gonna want to be alive. You're gonna want someone to be with you so you can actually reproduce.
Right.
Now you go a layer up, and then how do you achieve these goals? Well, to survive, you need a lot of resources. How do you get a wife? How do you get a mate? Well, you need to be the best person. You need to be the best choice on the marketplace. That's why a tiny few percentage of men will get all the women, and the rest will just be competing on nothing. Some people won't even get anyone.
Right.
So now all these men, and I'm going to use men because it's easier to kind of like explain.
Right.
All these men create these games, right? Like, okay, now how are we going to get the resources? Oh, okay, cool. Well, we can go farm. Okay, or I can go hunt. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm tired of hunting. How can we create technology? Now you start playing different type of games where the leverage changes. So now we start playing this game of, let's say we're marketers, but why are we marketers? Oh, okay, cool. Let me build this business. Let me help these people save time, money, and then they're going to exchange that resources. They're going to exchange money for the time I just saved them. Then if I accumulate enough money, I'm going to have enough resources to be able to satisfy the survival and the mating needs. Okay? So really it's about, it's like, okay, now how do we guarantee survival and like replication of our genes for lifetimes? Now it becomes about, okay, now how can we guarantee future resources?
Right.
Well, you need a machine to create those resources in the future. And what are the best path to wealth creation? It's owning organizations. It's creating companies. So now as an investor is really just wanting future cash flow.
Right.
Right? Why? Well, because he just wants to make sure that his genes can live forever. Right?
Yeah.
So now the investor is not really looking at, oh, how much money did I make this month? He cares about how much money am I going to make tomorrow?
Right.
And forever tomorrows. Right? So his thought process is not about, oh, how can I, like, he's not living today. He's really living for like a century, right? Or hundreds of years in the future. So when I end up learning is that, oh, well, I actually need to stop thinking so much about like these little tiny games and actually need to start thinking about the long-term game. So then when you start playing this game, instead of like the lower levels, you start perceiving and making decisions that are completely different from what would be good today. And instead, you start playing the game for long term, and you make different decisions. So for me, it's like understanding like what's because if you really understand that these are also the main things that people want, the way you market, the way you position yourself is aligned with the subconscious desire, and not the like the conscious desire. Like, oh, I need more leads. I need more appointments. I need to make 100K a month. No, you don't need to make 100K a month. You need a shit ton of resources, and you need to be able to get a penthouse so you can find a woman who so you can have 1,000 women who want to be in the penthouse, you know?
Why does legacy matter? You're going to be dead. What is the evolutionary psychology behind why you're never satisfied with how much money you're making?
Amazing. Just got to say on an aside real quick, Serge, I love how eloquently you broke that down in terms of why people need to chase that huge accumulation of wealth from an evolutionary psychology perspective. It's such an interesting paradox because you just explained how it's for finding a mate and not being alone. But at the same time, entrepreneurship, you are working alone, sacrificing huge portions of your life, and you're gambling the two things that you're trying to go after on an evolutionary psychology perspective. And 99% of people aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
It's the largest gamble that people take in life.
Yeah.
Something that's super interesting that I saw recently. I'm a musician. I love producing electronic music.
Nice.
And I always used to think that art, athletics was proof that there's more to life than just making money, extending your bloodline. That's proof that there's a deeper meaning to life. People aren't just competing in a marketplace. And then an evolutionary psychologist broke this down for me and said, no, we've just become more sophisticated as humans and understood that there's more markets than just commerce, right?
Okay.
And so commerce has become very oversaturated, like starting a marketing agency, starting a SaaS company. All these high ticket offers are very oversaturated sources of income, and everyone was, building things and selling things and creating things. But then it was shown that there is a way to actually provide value and get paid for it through art, right? When we started monetizing on a very large scale, whether it was music, whether it was playing basketball, whether it was doing any of these more creative things, this simply became another marketplace for hierarchical domination and showing yourself as the best potential mate in a cohort, right? And so this desire to become the best musician or the best baseball player actually feeds into that same desire of being able to make the most money and being the best marketer or being the best advertiser. It's to be able to show yourself that you are the best potential candidate in the marketplace, as well as to accumulate resources.
Yeah.
Do you guys find that a little depressing that we're able to dumb down so many things from art to sports? For example, sports being a form of death distraction, to love, to evolutionary psychology baseline, and just primitive instincts and chemicals. How do you guys feel about that?
I don't, I don't find it too depressing, to be honest, because I mean, we're all born to die. Like, the purpose of life is to die. We're here. We came out to this planet, and there's very few things in life that are sure and certain, right? And one of them is death. You're gonna, there's like an old president that said something along the lines of the only thing in life that is sure is death and taxes.
And you don't have to pay taxes anymore if you're if you're smart.
Yeah. So, we're here to die, and as Serge was talking about from an evolutionary psychology standpoint, we have a function in life, and that's to pass on our bloodline, and that's even how we're here today. If we didn't have a bloodline, how would life be possible today? As humans, that is our function. And I think, it's very dumbed down, of course. It's like a very one-dimensional way of, and of thinking about it. Like, there's obviously a lot more to life. You can get much more enrichment. It doesn't mean your life has to be depressing, and it's like, oh, if I need to reproduce and then I'm gonna die. Like, it's not like that. You can really enjoy experiences, have a great partner, find a lot of fulfillment from many activities. But I mean, when you zoom out, when you look at it from that bird's eye view, just like an investor would look at a business. It's like when you look at it from the creator standpoint, right? Whether you believe in God or some type of creator, like we came from something, whether it was science, like a big bang, or it's God, or whatever you want to call it, we came from somewhere. There's a creator. When you zoom out, you look at it from a bird's eye view from the creator standpoint, like that is what we are here for as humans. We're here to live and to pass on our DNA, our genetics, and to die. And I don't find that depressing, but some people might.
What about you?
I mean, for me, it's I actually like it. I just like the simplicity of it, because you can play the game of life. You can go so deep that like you try to complicate everything, but it's good to also like have it be simple. Like, hey, I'm here just to create. Can be create kids, it can be create great resources for whoever, for myself, it can be create and help others, it can be create art, it can be create anything, but it's like, hey, I'm here to create, let's just get to work, right? But I love just hey, all of this doesn't matter. All that matters is like, hey, let's survive, and let's have some kids, and let's provide for them, and let's have an impact. When you try to like get caught up into the like, hey, I need this, I need that, I need to achieve this status level, like it's a game that never ends, and that's where you end up in the rat race, because then you start competing on things that don't necessarily matter. You can make it matter in your mind, but it's like it's not worth it, because I'm not sure if you guys have ever noticed this, but like no matter how many goals you set for yourself and how many you achieve, there's always something else to go after, right? So if you don't have something to go back to, that's like the actual, like the North Star of what really matters, then that's where a lot of people end up depressed. Because it's like, so I think a lot of people, have this misconception that like when you end up being successful financially, that you somehow tap into this state of like eternal happiness, or that you end up in this state of eternal like contentment. I don't think it works like that. But the most fulfilled people are people with no desires, right? Because if you don't have a desire, you're actually you're wealthy, you're blessed, right? So by understanding that like the main reason why we're here is those just two basic things, like, hey, just survive and recreate, then it gives you this little like baseline of knowing that like, hey, whatever happens, whether I build a company, whether it fails, whether it's this, like those things are just to keep me busy and just to keep me like entertained and while I go through this life. But a lot of people associate their identity to this. And when shit breaks, then they break.
Right.
But if you really like keep it simple, then it's like, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try a bunch of shit. I may fail. I may make $1 billion. Hey, who cares? Let's go. Right?
Yeah.
So it just also like it reduces the pressure. The pressure of like, oh, I always need to be the best. I always. No. For me, I'm cool. I'm cool. Whatever.
Why is it so dangerous for entrepreneurs to make their business their whole identity?
Do you mind, sir, just breaking that down a little deeper? I love the way how you said like they just break. Can you do you have an example? Do you have an anecdote of some, like you've seen that in the industry before?
So why is it dangerous for? Okay, yeah. I mean, I can try to repeat it. I don't know if I have an exact thing that I can use, but I can try to like explain it. Cool. So, we were talking about the fact that the main two things that really, we're here for is like, survive and then recreate, right? And then we create all these games to try to be able to fulfill these two outcomes by, starting businesses, by going and getting a degree, by going and trying to be, maybe become a president or all these things, right? But a lot of people along the journey of trying to succeed at these games, the game becomes the outcome, or it becomes their North Star. The game, succeeding at the game becomes their why, right? But the issue is that it's a game. So games, you fail, sometimes you win, right? But most of the time you fail a lot more than you win. So when you forget to remind yourself why you're doing the thing in the first place, then you end up failing in business, succeeding in business. Actually, the worst thing is when you really win a lot and then you fail. Then when you do fail, when you've had constant wins, it will break you, because your whole identity is based on the fact that you're a winner in business, you're successful at your job, you're this and that. Or maybe like, you're like, hey, my goal is to like get married and like just focus on this. Well, it's like, no, marriage is not necessarily the goal either. Right. Marriage is also a social construct. The goal is to recreate.
Right.
You can be married, not married. No, who cares? Recreate, right? Yeah. So when you get attached to these games, to these little social constructs, then your identity, as soon as the thing does not work, it's almost like a vehicle. As long as when you attach your identity to the vehicle that you're in, and that vehicle like breaks, then you also break. So it's really like separating yourself from the vehicle that gets you towards the goal and the actual goal itself.
If you don't mind, Serge, I'll leave it up to you, obviously, but relationships being one of those like 5 or 6 niches that pertain to everybody in the world. Like you said, everyone doesn't want to be alone. That's a really good one to kind of make a hook that's going to be very controversial and get a lot of views for. So your opinion on marriage, you kind of just explained it. Like, would you say that you think marriage is kind of like redundant, like marriage is kind of like a fake construct?
I wouldn't say that marriage is a fake construct, but what we'll talk, so the question before was why should you not put your identity on the thing you're doing, on your business, and attach it to that, right? Which when you do that, you forget that the reason why you're in business is because you want to accumulate a lot of resources and being able to provide for and attract a mate. Well, that led me to a thought process, which is like, well, if we follow the evolutionary psychology thing, which is like the goal is to recreate, because the gene wants to recreate itself. It does not care who you do it with. It just cares that it happens, right? But now in society, we've built this marriage thing, which is like, hey, you need to get married in front of the law and you need to sign all these things. Well, I'm like, no, that's not really what our genes care about. That's just it's probably a human system. It's probably the matrix, right? So I think that now, side to that, I actually believe in marriage, but I'm not going to play the game of marriage. And let's say if I get married and I don't like the marriage, I'm not necessarily going to be like, oh, I'm locked into this forever. Like, if it's not good, it's not good. If it's toxic, it's toxic. It's just a vehicle. It's like, hey, we're trying to recreate ourselves so we can make babies, so we can, expand our genes. But like, if the vehicle is not good, it's not good. Change it, right?
Yeah.
So that's to that. But like, it's not a matter of like, it's not my belief. It's just like, if you think through logically, is marriage really It's not a law of physics. It's not like, it's not something that's written in like gravity,
Right.
It's just created by a human. Probably they had other desires or other goals from that system, because it's just a process.
So, Serge, being an entrepreneur and having the success that you've had, how do you find that the success that you've had has changed your criteria for a potential partner?
I don't think my success changes the criteria. I think there are bigger influences happening right now, especially on social media. I'm sure you guys have your socials, but like, you'll literally go on your explore page and there will be like 1,000 beautiful women, right? So that's one. That just messes you up from the get-go, right? But the success thing, I think it just makes it easier for people to be like wanting to be with you.
Right.
Which creates a lot of option. So it's really like the level of option you get is ridiculous, okay? But that also confuses you, because a confused mind does not buy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's really the issue, is confusion. It's like, okay, then who do you choose?
Yeah.
If I compare that to, let's say, when I was in high school, I only liked this one girl. And that was my target. I could care less, because the amount of options that were there, I'm not going to say there were a lot of more beautiful women, but I liked this one girl. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, well, if there is 1,000 attractive women, like, then what do I judge that I like? Right. Is it physical? Like, am I going to have to experience 1,000 women to base it off of like, oh, I like, you look good. I also like your personality. I also like this about you. You like the same movie shows as me. It's like, so I think it guys, the options, man, they mess you up. So I would almost like to be like, I think I'm going to find my wife somewhere in the countryside, just on a farm. Just zero option, no internet. And then I'm gonna be like, oh, there's only one girl in this town. So okay, guys, let's go.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Do you want to go into, Nick, a little bit about how like it also creates a lot of what ifs and buyer's remorse? Like, it's like if you go to a restaurant and there's 3 items on the menu and you get something, they actually did a study on it. You can mention that too. But there was a study where they had people go to an ice cream store, and when there was 3 flavors, vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, 90% of the people who got a flavor were happy with it, and they weren't really wondering, did I make the right decision? And they were even thinking, like, even if I don't, I'll go back and get option 2 or 3 next time.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're overloaded with 50 options or 100 options, no matter what decision you make, there's a 99 out of 100% chance that you probably made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. I mean, like just the exact thing you mentioned. You go to a cafe, even Starbucks. You look at the Starbucks menu. You're just like, should I get a oat macchiato? Should I like what? And then sometimes you get a drink and you're like, I don't know if that was the one I wanted. Yeah. It's a very.
You know what? I think it's actually a terrible idea to compare mating to food. So let's cut that topic out of there.
I think we should live it in. Yeah. I mean, on the longer pod, we should definitely live it in.
Yeah. I do really like though what you were saying. About like you open up your Instagram and you're just kind of flooded with the algorithm feeding you thousands of pictures of potential, mates, suitors, whatever. I think it's gamified dating in a really negative way where you become desensitized to people, right? It's like if you have 1,000 options in front of you, you never actually put the effort into taking any one of them really seriously because you feel like you have to get through so many. I think dating hookup culture is actually, I think hookup culture is kind of the matrix for young men and for entrepreneurs especially. I think it's, I think people were much happier when their options were offline, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, happened to me personally. I just, I ended up with a woman that, it's like I didn't have anything. Like I was really not in a good place, and this was an offline, totally organic meeting. The way we had a friendship, the way we just ended up sticking together through the hardest stuff, and growth and everything. It's like I feel like if we didn't end up there were many times where I felt like we could have just broken up because it was too hard. Between long distance relationships, just some pretty serious fights, and me just not having my shit together, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was. I feel like it could have easily happened, but for whatever reason it didn't. And you know, I feel like if things didn't work out with her, I feel like I would be in a. I've thought about this a lot. How I'm really not a fan of the dating culture nowadays, and how I feel like I'd have a really hard time with that if I was if I was single and looking for a potential partner. I would probably just like hate doing like, you know, going on these apps or like whatever it is that you know people are doing to meet people nowadays. And yeah, and I think I probably would honestly just be building. And sometimes I think about it that way too, because I'm like, would things be different? And then I'm like, well, you know, she's a rock star in the business, so I don't think it's like that. But you know, with there's definitely a lot to think about there. And I do definitely agree with what Serge was saying about when there's less options, it's almost easier. You're just like, great, I pick you, and you know, I'm happy. There's not many flavors on the menu. No woman wanted to be with me at that time, you know. I didn't have a lot of options. It's like,
Nick, you're married, so you're already in the safe zone. But Serge, do you not feel an urgency then to find a partner sooner rather than later? Because the more success you see, the more skepticism you're going to face with if they're right for you for the right reason, and the more options you're going to have, right? So do you not feel like you need to find someone now?
But the thing is, like, finding that someone, I don't think it's not like I mean, I guess you can put yourself in a position to have more opportunities to finding them, but I also don't like the like, oh, I'm gonna find them, right? I think it has to be organic. It has to be something that you're not even like looking for, because I don't want someone who's like, hey, I'm gonna find like a wife,
right?
And then you're like, okay, I like this about you, okay, cool, you meet the criteria. No, it's like, let me spend some time, let me meet people, and then at some point I'm gonna find someone who I don't want to leave, and then I'm gonna be like, okay, cool, I think you're the right one. So now on the thing of like, you know, what are they here for? Like, are they here because I'm financially in a good position? Maybe because I can offer them whatever. I mean, that's a tricky thing, because you never know. And if you're already successful, you will never know. Yeah. So it's a like,
it's a catch-22.
So like, you'll never know unless you just go broke. But for me, a lot of the time, and this is something that I do, is I try to not lead with my socials when I'm meeting women, just generally because I want to, not necessarily because I don't want them to see like my success, but because I first want to see who they are, and if I like them without them knowing who I really am. And that way it just creates it's like, I just want it to be organic. Like, let's talk, what do you like, you know, like we'll talk about some weird stuff, because I'm not all about business anyway. Like, most of the time I'm not really all just talking about stuff, because I also don't want to talk business with the person I'm with. I just want to, you know, let's chill, let's talk about other stuff in life. So I try not to lead with the success or whatever, right? So that also kind of like creates a little barrier, I guess, to them knowing, so you can guess somewhat if they're authentic or just there for other reasons.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, it's like you need to. Well, you don't need to be looking for it. You don't find someone when you're looking for them. It just happens. So
yeah,
I think that's a good perspective to have. And you know, like you said, the options are there. So it's just whenever you feel like it's you're finding the right person. What's the dumbest purchase you ever made?
I don't know if I have ever made a dumb purchase. Because I don't think I have. Because I'm someone who doesn't. I'm not a like impulse buyer. At least like on material stuff, right?
Okay.
I really don't. The only, I mean, it could be. It would be dumb because I bought it because I actually liked it. So it could be like maybe cars. Okay. I'll like look at a car the night before and I'll go buy it by 12 p.m. the next day, type of thing. But I wouldn't. It's an impulse buy, but it's not a dumb buy, because it's for me cars. It's like an experience, right? So if I want it, I'm gonna get it. I don't know how, but I'm gonna get it, type of thing. So those would be like dumb buys, because every car, like even the first time I ever bought my first car, it was like a $5,000 car, but I didn't have $5,000 in my bank account, right? So, but like I was like, I'm gonna leave with this car today. So I came in, I was like, hey, how are we gonna make this work? Okay, I put like $1,500 down. but like I had to call like the bank and get the loan for the remaining amount, no, for the 5K, so I can pay the guy off. But like I did not plan that out that day, right? So when it comes to those things, I'll do it because I want it. But anything else, I don't like buy dumb shit. If it makes me happy, I'll do it.
Okay, what's the most expensive purchase you've ever made?
I guess just cars.
Yeah.
It's
not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did, I do feel like that's true with Serge. Like, I don't feel like he's a guy that, like just frivolously spends. Like, I feel like, you're very simple. I feel like you could be super flashy. Like, I feel that, you could do a lot with whatever, your wardrobe, watches, anything. But I don't see any of that on Serge.
Yeah.
And I find that people even below Serge's stage, like, they'll be at like, 90K a month, 100K a month, and they're like Lambo, like full everything. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're kind of hustling backwards, bro. Because they're getting stuck in the rat race, like for real. And they're just in a trap. And that's, the same type of train of thought that leads the highest paid athletes to be living paycheck to paycheck. It's like the same exact same thing, right? It's like you have a little drop shipping business, you're doing like 100K a month, decent margins, and then you're like literally inflating your lifestyle to the point that you don't even have anything to fall back on. It's like, what if Shopify pulls the plug on you tomorrow? Or like, what if, it's like, these are real risks.
Yeah. That's one of the most important thing that a lot of people don't understand, especially when you start making money. And for me, I guess because I was so focused on working that I didn't get into the habit of like just getting into the habit of wanting to look like where I'm at in business wise. Like I didn't want my image to look how I was performing in business. So I didn't get into that habit. So even if I would like make, a lot of money every month, like I moved out when I was already making like maybe like over almost $500,000 a year, right? And I got my first, I was still driving a Mazda when I was making over 100K a month, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie to you, that, oh my God, like today, if I had like increased my lifestyle back then, today I would not be able to play the games I'm playing. Because what that allows you to do is it allows you to go through periods of time where you're making shit ton more money than what you're spending. Okay?
Absolutely.
And then you end up with a lot more money than you need to go cover the expenses of the business, to cover everything, your team and everything like that. So then it's like, if we have a month where, maybe I don't make money, I'm like, we're still making decisions as if we're making $1 million a month because I have the capital to cover anything if anything happens, right? But when you go, because business is never just linear, right? It's always like it's ups and down, and then it's even if it's not up and down, it's always like you all go up and then you maintain and then you plateau, or maybe you dip a little bit until another building phase, and then you go up again, and then so it's all these little steps. So if you increase your lifestyle all throughout the thing, well, when you plateau, the expenses also go up. And if you kept rising your lifestyle, like lifestyle and business expenses are two different things, but like your lifestyle is gonna creep up. Like your lifestyle expenses like go crazy when you don't understand that, like, hey, the future may not be as bright as it is today. So chill out on trying to look rich. You're not rich. Like chill out. So yeah.
I'm curious to hear from both of you guys on that point. As 7 to 8 figure entrepreneurs, what's the funniest thing you guys cheap out on? Because I have a friend, for example, who's making multiple 7 figures, and he still takes the bus 40 minutes to the discount gym, right?
Wow.
And myself, for example, funny thing I cheap out on is I am so cheap with Uber Eats. I only order Uber Eats from the buy one, get one menu, and when I have a 40 to 50% off coupon, right? So I'm buying $50 worth of food. I'm getting $20 off of that with my 40% coupon, and they're giving me $100 because it's buy one, get one. So I'm getting $100 of food for $20 to $30 every time I use Uber Eats. And if I can't, I'm not ordering on Uber Eats. So I'm curious about you guys. Like, what's some funny things that you guys cheap out on as multi-million entrepreneurs?
I actually do that Uber Eats thing too.
I need that Uber Eats thing because I spend way too much money on Uber Eats. I'm gonna need that 2 for 1.
Yeah. I'm somebody that I like to spend. I know what I like to spend on, and it's usually experiences. I really enjoy travel. So those are things I don't. And I feel like with other things that are not as important, I try to just generally find the balance between enjoying life to the fullest and not feeling like I'm holding back, but also just like frugality, right? Because to Serge's point, it's like I don't want to spend as much money as I'm making, or like I want to have like that's how you fumble the bag when it comes to building wealth.
Facts.
So like for me, it's like I want to keep as many of my expenses like as low as possible. I won't cheap out on having a nice place to live. I won't cheap out on having experiences. If I'm with my friends and we're having a good time, I'm not going to be the person that's like, no, I don't want to go to this place. It's too expensive, right? Like I want to enjoy that time with people. But I would say as I'm getting older too, I'm finding that just like there's so many things that maybe as a young person I thought it was cool to spend money on that, and I'm like, nah, I don't even want to do that anymore. Like I don't currently have a car. My wife has a '09 Civic, and I rent whenever I need to go somewhere and I want to pull up feeling like $1 million. I'll go rent a car from whatever Exotics, and there's like a place in Vancouver. They've got like a Rolls Royce chauffeur. Sometimes I'll get driven around for a night, go for a little date night. But
Sick.
It's like I don't own that because I'm owning a depreciating asset. And if you're in Serge's position, like be my guest. But I'm not in his position, and so I wanna cut as much as I can down. Even with groceries, like I'll look at what's on sale. It's like sometimes it's not what I feel like having. I'm just like, okay, well, this is on sale. I'm gonna pick this up.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. For me, because I'm not a big, like it's not like I do a lot of stuff. I don't buy a lot of stuff, so I don't know what I cheap out on. I just don't buy shit.
Yeah.
So I guess for me, it's not that I cheap out on stuff. It's just I just don't consume much. Right? Mm-hmm. So like right now, if you ask me that question, I wouldn't be able to tell you like, oh, I cheap out on this, because maybe like, clothing or like materialistic stuff like watch and things like that. I will not buy those things because for me, like if I look at like the cost of it, I'm like, wow, this like if I spend 20 grand on a watch or 50 grand, I mean, that's like almost like $250,000 in revenue that can be brought in if I spend that on marketing or on a team. Mm-hmm. So I look at it that way, and it keeps me from overspending. But when I want something, I want it. Like it's like he was saying, like the place I live in, it's like, hey, I work from here, so like it better be the best place ever. Mm-hmm. I like cars. I like go and get my bagel in my little 500 horses car. I'm gonna get the 500 horses car. Like I don't care if it's expensive or not, because I also remind myself that at the end of the day, it's not as much as we want to create wealth, as much as we want to do all these things. You also don't want to sacrifice your life just to be financially also comfortable. Because then, okay, what's the point of you like stacking hundreds of millions of dollars? Like your kids will not need hundreds of millions. They might not even need $1 million. They need to go make their own, right? So For me, it's more of like hey, I'm here to also be selfish. Let me live the best life. Like if I travel with my team, and we go to Spain, like we'll spend ridiculous amounts of money, spending 10 grand a night on just on accommodations, and then we'll go outside and drink and go celebrate life. We'll hire all these things. I'm not looking at the price of that, because that's what I'm successful for. I'm successful so I can have memories that are crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So I work hard so that I don't have to look at the price tag of anything that I want. Mm-hmm. And then I just reduce my consumption rate to the things that I need. Like if I need a new shirt, okay, I'll go just buy a new shirt. Cool. Like, hey, I don't have anything to wear today. Okay, cool. Let me go rock this. But like besides those things, like I try to buy only the things I need and I want. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be that. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of brought me back to just thinking about, we were talking about mimetic desires, but it's like that brings me back to, you saw someone else that bought a Rolex, they made their first mill and they're like, yeah, I got this Rolex, and then like, do I actually want to have that watch? Would I like to own that thing? Or it's like, I saw somebody else doing that and I felt like, oh, they did this, so I need to do this, or I need to show other people that I'm successful, and this is the only way I can get that validation that I'm actually successful is if I own this watch or whatever, right? And it's like, well, you have to ask yourself, like, is that actually important for you? Like, deep down, do you feel important when you achieve that milestone? Does it make you genuinely happy? And if the answer is yes, then fucking do that thing. But if the answer is like, maybe not really, then, and I think that's so important to understand for any person. It's like, what actually makes you happy? And it's like it like for someone else it might be cars or watches or whatever their thing is, but it's like if it's not yours, then you don't need to do that, and you're probably going to put yourself in debt, or at least, like you said, just there's an opportunity cost with like, where could that money be better spent if I just used it or saved it for something more important. And that ties into another thing we were talking about, which is delayed gratification, which you kind of brought up inadvertently with the Mazda thing, right? Because it's like $100K a month. Like a lot of people just go get a Lambo. They go get a, they want to show it off, and they want to be on Instagram. Look at all this money I'm making, and showing all their poor friends like what a great job they're doing, right? And so how do you feel like delayed gratification has changed your life?
I mean, I think it's what allows me to have space to become better, because you cannot build a great organization while trying to survive. Impossible. It's super impossible, because here is the thing that most people don't understand. In order for you to build a 7-figure company, you need to build a platform that delivers 7 figures worth, more than 7 figures worth of value, right? In order to make 8 figures, you need to build a thing that generates 10 times more value. If you want to make $1 billion, you need to build a platform that will generate maybe trillions in worth of value. Now, do you really think that you're going to build a 7-figure company in 2 days, or even a month, even 30 days? No, you're not. Do you think you're going to build an 8-figure company in 1 year? Maybe not. Even those who do go from 0 to 10 mil a year, they probably spent a decade becoming better to be able to sustain that growth and handle that type of pressure. So when you delay gratification, what it allows you to do, at least financially, like buying stuff that you want, it allows you to just to not level up your costs. And it allows you to just be like, hey, for the next year, I could literally not make any money, and I will still be cool to be able to survive and take care of everything that I need to take care of to survive, and then build. Because then it allows you it gives you space to think. It turns you into someone that no one can compete with. Because the reason why most people can scale companies is because they're in a rush. Like any problem that you're facing, that I'm facing, that you're facing, has already been solved. But the reason why we're not solving it is because we're trying to build an 8-figure company while still trying to make $1 million a year. Does not work. It does not work. You got to stop the $1 million activities, bullshit activities, and be like, hey, okay, cool. Who can come in and take care of this $1 million activities? Okay, cool. Now I need to spend 60 days finding talent. Oh, when I get the talent, he may not actually all be ready. He needs 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to be onboarded. Oh, fuck. I need to train him every day, meet with him, set up targets and everything. Oh, okay, cool. Then he'll actually start producing 96 in the second quarter. Okay, well, now the person who's making $1 million, when you tell him that, hey, you have to wait 6 months, 12 months to even be able to remove yourself from this, they're like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to make a VSL. I'm going to do a webinar. I'm going to run the ads myself. I'm going to do this. So I think it's about, like, you need to delay gratification. And, one of the things I always talk about is like, hey, I want a GT3, right? I always post on my stories like, hey, I need a Porsche.
Yeah.
Is it because I can't get a Porsche?
No. Fuck.
No, right? But and I always catch myself thinking like, bro, why are you always talking about this dumb ass car, GT3 Porsche? Let's say it's $250,000 or 300 grand. Well, okay, cool. I could go get it. Maybe I won't find the allocation, but I could go get it tomorrow if I wanted to. But there's also a second layer to delaying gratification, where it's like it almost puts something to look forward to.
Right.
So it almost gives me like that thing that I want, that I'm like, then I lie to myself like, oh, I'm working hard so I can get this car.
Right.
No, it's not that. I could go get the car, but it's like I lie to myself and create these fake goals to just keep me waking up. I'm like, wow, when I do get that Porsche, it's gonna be nice.
Yeah.
So it's just it's almost like it puts a little light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just like a little prize, because if you don't have things to look forward to when you're building a company, man, it is so hard. It is so, because I mean, I guess some people are like, hey, I just do this because it's who I am. No, it's not who you are. Shut up. Like, building a fucking company is hard. So you need to have something at the end of the day to look forward to. Maybe you're someone who likes watching movies. I like chilling out at the end of the day. I like just, ordering my food, eating, just watching a show. And I love to look forward to, oh, maybe I'm going to go to the movies. Maybe I'm going to buy a $250,000 car. Maybe I'm going to get into a penthouse, right? I could have moved into the home I'm in way earlier, but it's like, no, I just wanted for it to be a milestone. If I make $500,000 a month, I'm like, okay, fuck it. Now I think I deserve to live here, So it's like I push things so far so that I can have something to look forward to. And it kind of like creates this little like lie in my mind that I'm chasing something. And it makes the pain feel less painful.
Yeah. And I think that also ties in nicely to what we were just talking about, knowing what the fuck you want. Because it's like, if you put, like, if for example, I say, oh, Serge wants a GT3, that's my light at the end of the tunnel too. Like, I'm going to be, and it's like, if I don't really want that, then I'm not going to actually be motivated to wake up and do my thing, because that's not my desire, right? And I think that's where just the knowledge of like what you actually want to get out of this, like what is the end goal? And then that's how you can, kind of illustrate that timeline. Like, okay, when I hit this goal, this is what I'm going to get. And that actually makes me so excited, not just like what someone else did or what someone else wants.
Yeah.
Serge, do you think that entrepreneurs should spend their money on courses or coaches?
Yeah, I think they should. Yeah. And not necessarily, because I think, so for me, this is the funny thing. I've probably bought less than like 10 courses or coaching programs like in the last 3 years, right? And now looking back, could I have changed things? Yeah, I could have probably bought more stuff, worked with mentors and things like that. But I think that at first you need to realize that like you can try to go through it alone and try to just spend the time becoming good, learning your own lessons, or you could trade capital and just save time. Because at the end of the day, and I think there's this little meme that has been going around, which is like, the more time you spend chasing the thing, the more time you waste not experiencing the thing, right?
Okay.
So like let's say you have 80 years to live. If you try to take, because there are some people who will take 10 years, 20 years to build $1 million a year business.
Right.
But I'm like, are you serious? Like, are you dumb? A decade, 20 years to learn how to make $100,000 a month is stupid. Just genuinely like dumb. Like dumb, equal dumb. Because you could have taken 3 months, 1 month to go pay someone who's making that and look at their pricing model, look at their offer, look at their sales process, look at the size of the team, look at the fulfillment, and just plug and play every single position. Fill in the gaps. And then somehow you make $1 million a year. But for me, I've tried not to spend money on coaches and consultants or like courses and things like that, because a lot of people get lost into this habit of like just buying. Because I'm sure you've experienced that little dopamine hit you get when you got buying to something new. You're like, wow, this is going to change my life. For me, I'm like, no. Like, I'm not going to wait for me to buy something to see that, oh, I need to actually be leveraged in my business. Oh, what is this guy doing? Okay, cool. This is how he's marketing. Okay, cool. Oh, this is how many times he's marketing and putting out social proof. Okay, cool. I'm going to do that. I don't need to pay you to see. I just look at you. If I need something more, back-end wise, operations wise, then cool. I'm going to go find some free material on podcasts. If I still need help, okay, cool. Let me go see where I'm at. Let me pay him. And even today, like, right now we're starting to work with a growth firm that's making like $4 million a month. And like the reason why I'm paying them though is because I don't have time anymore to go learn. So like learning now becomes more of a cost. It's a bigger cost. I mean, not learning, but it's like learning on a big timeline. I just want to learn it in 1 week, right? So I pay because I want to actually shorten the timeline of learning. The rate of learning. Right. I want to increase it. So that's why I would buy. Okay. So if you're someone who has more money than time, then just just pay to learn faster.
Okay.
I'm definitely guilty of the little dopamine rush thing you talked
Yeah.
about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in time is money and money is time. I believe time is money, but I don't think money is time, right? Because with time, you can make money, but money will never get you more time. Money can compound. You can acquire more money. You can never compound your time. You can never acquire more time.
Yeah.
And so I've spent $40,000 on coaching and mentorship this year.
Wow.
And although it's the best investment I've made, I will definitely say, I think a lot of the time it's that little dopamine hit that people are chasing to just feel like they're doing something productive. What I'll say on the other end of that, though, as soon as I spend that money, even if I don't learn anything from the course, or even if I don't even go into it, I suddenly have a motivation where I'm like, fuck, I just spent 15 G's on this. I need to make triple this money back, and it pushes me to do something.
Yeah.
But one thing I found out is this is how you can get 90% off online courses from gurus. And this is how I saved $9,000 on a $10,000 course, or got a $10,000 course for $1,000. A lot of people who are selling courses are not very technologically savvy. And when they build their websites, whether it's on Shopify or on Samcart or wherever else, oftentimes their URLs at checkout are very simply codified. And so I noticed once while purchasing a $10,000 course, I got on a sales call and the salesperson was telling me, sorry, I can't give you anything more than a $2,000 discount. It's the most I can do. I can give you this $10,000 course for $8,000. It's our absolute best price we can offer you. And I said, okay, send me the link because I was really interested in buying this course. And he sends me the link and I copy the link so I can send it from my iPad to my computer. And I noticed the URL has at the end of it, course XYZ-checkout- coupon code 7. And so I went to the 7 and I changed that to 6, and then I changed it to 5, and then I changed it to 4. And I tried every single number between 1 and 20, and I found coupon codes and checkout pages with everything from $1,000 off to $9,000 off that 10K course. I'm not saying I checked out with that $9,000 discount, but I got really curious by this, and I tested it out with a number of other guru courses. And it's crazy how many people have this loophole and this liability on their website for their course.
That's
checkout.
crazy.
So if you run a course and you're listening to this right now, you should probably check up on your URLs.
Yeah, that's crazy. I never thought of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, wild.
That's really interesting. You know, follow-up question to that, Serge, is why do you think that people buy courses and then don't get the end result that they expected to get?
Well, I mean, that's pretty simple. So there is this thing. I mean, Hormozy calls it the definition of intelligence. I called it the growth formula, right? So like, hey, what creates growth? Well, we'll do intelligence first. An intelligent person acquires a new input, a new data, a new insight, and then they change their behavior, right? And a super genius person does that, but does it way faster, right? Well, if you look at also what creates growth in someone's life is they learn something new, and they learn a lot of it faster. And then on the other hand, on the second variable is they also change their behavior faster than ever, right? When you buy a course, you will learn. I mean, if you're disciplined enough to sit down and actually put on headphones and watch the thing or listen to the thing or the book, whatever. But the thing they forget is that your behavior, your rate of change of your behaviors needs to be as equal to the rate of learning. A lot of people forget this. And I promise you, and to be honest, like the thesis of my company is this. People just keep on learning bullshit. They're like, hey, they're so smart. You're like, okay, you already know it. But so as an example, let me say this. A Facebook ad media buyer or an ads person who's making $500K a year, you're going to tell him like, hey, this is what you need to do. And then they'll be like, oh, this is what you need to do to get $5 million a year. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I already know how to do it. Okay, then the fuck? The difference between you making $500K a year and you not making $5 million is your rate of execution, right? So I've literally created our program around, hey, we're not just going to give you the rate of learning. We're not going to just change that variable, but we're also going to help you execute faster. So when someone works with us, it's like we look at every single thing that needs to be put in place, and then we put it in place for them, and then we just get them to manage the new thing. Because for me, it's like selling courses is a little tricky for me. It's not that I will never sell courses. I will, right? But for a higher level, like more expensive thing, 15 grand, 25 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand, what we're selling is not really information anymore. It's just like, hey, let's help you just move faster. And let's just do things for you, so you don't get stuck in this loop of like just like mental masturbation of you becoming smarter but not becoming richer. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big problem.
So yeah, just those two things. It changes everything once you understand that, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because there's people that do get into that loop of like, I'm buying courses, I'm reading books, I'm learning, I'm doing all this. It's like all in my brain, and you feel good. It's kind of like a dopamine boost, right? Like you're like, wow, I'm learning something new. But it's like, what are you changing about what you're doing now? Are you actively changing your beliefs? Are you actively changing your behaviors and your actions and your inputs and outputs that are coming out on a daily basis? And I think often that's where the disconnect is. It's like you're learning, but it just stops there. It's like there's nothing that changes past that.
Yeah. Or you just do it, or you just change your behavior, but you just change it once.
Right. Yeah.
I think everyone has to go through that at some point, that kind of loop of mental masturbation, because it's less scary than trying the hard thing that your ego is worried that you might fail. And I think for a lot of people, you don't even realize you have that fear. When I started operating a business and trying to scale a business, I had no awareness whatsoever that I had that fear. And I think for different people, and we'll probably cut this part out, but I think everyone has to go through that mental masturbation, and it just takes people different amounts of time to get that mental nut where they can finally then get into doing the work, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I think you just need to get tired of your own bullshit.
That's fair. Yeah.
Until you're tired of just staying in the same position, then like then you will just stay in the same position. You know, you just need to get pissed off. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I deserve more, and then you change.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that also just ties back to knowing yourself. Like, why is that goal important for me? Is it just a number? Is it a number I'm trying to hit? Like, am I trying to make my first 10K a month because that's what every person online is preaching? Make my first 100K, make $1 million a month. Is it a number, or is that actually important to me? Do I need to hit this goal for a reason? And I think if you can justify that and put a real reason behind that, I need to make this work so that I can feed my team. I can hire the best people. I can deliver the best results. I can be the best in my space. If you genuinely feel that passion coming through, then, you will get tired of your own bullshit. Because I'm like, why am I not there yet? I should have been there decades ago. Yeah. Or I had the information. I knew what I was supposed to do and I didn't do it. So what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Nick, we had that conversation earlier in the car about how like Mosey, for example, breaks down like the large part of the formula for success is trauma and how much trauma you went through, like going through the right amount.
Right.
Do you mind asking Serge, like, what role do you think trauma plays in your success as an entrepreneur?
Okay. What role do you think that trauma plays in your success as an entrepreneur?
We're talking about this, right? Yesterday you asked me something which, I gave you an answer to. We're not going to talk about it here, but I think everyone to have these big gigantic goals, you're doing it because you're trying to fill in a gap. Like, no matter how people position it, like every really successful person has a really big thing that they're trying to fill up, right? So I genuinely believe that like every person who's really successful has gone through something that has had to change the way that they treat life, because someone who's successful means they take their time seriously. They take their existence seriously, and they give it a cause. They have a mission. Now, if you never had any trauma or anything serious happen in your life, then you're just here to just have orgasms and just have fun. Like, so it's like you're just here to be comfortable and just be like, hey, I'm gonna just eat. I'm gonna get a little bit enough to survive. I'm gonna just get just a little bit of that. So it's like the standard need to be really fucking high for your life in order for you to become successful, because the price to pay to be successful for someone who's had everything good all their life is not actually worth it, in my opinion. I think entrepreneurship is not meant for everyone, in my opinion, because you need to be it's a sacrifice that only you need to have lost so much that the sacrifice that you have to go through for success compared to what you've lost is still nothing.
Right.
And I think that's what makes it easier, because then you have more context.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, I'm going to have to spend 2 years building this. I'm going to have to spend 5 years building this. I may not go see family this week. I may not answer you when you call me. I may prioritize this thing more than my relationships. I may prioritize this more than my health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I may be more serious with the people that I love, because there are standards to follow in order for me to accomplish this mission. But for someone who has no context, then cutting out people, sacrificing your weekends, not drinking, not smoking weed, not chasing 1,000 women becomes a sacrifice that is not really worth it, because they have no context to to a level of like bad situation. So it's, I guess in a way, it's like you have to have gone through so much shit that the shit you're gonna eat building a company is relatively like, okay, cool, whatever, that's nothing, let's do it.
Yeah. I feel like a good kind of a good example of why this is true, I think, is when you look at people who come from, good families with money. Mm-hmm. I think like if you look at those kids, right, it's like, no disrespect, but I just feel like they just don't have it in them. Mm-hmm. They don't have it in them to go through the trenches, because they've always had it good. They've always been comfortable. Mm-hmm. And typically they'll end up in some kind of corporate, typically high-ish paying job. And they just have the comfort of like, yeah, well, my parents have money and I have a house, and when they die, I'm going to inherit their shit. Yeah. And they don't really feel that need to be that change maker, that person that comes in and breaks the cycle, because what cycle are they breaking, right? It's like, my parents already achieved all this, and they'll just always feel like a shadow, and it's like they just listen. Their parents are like, yeah, go to school and study and become a doctor. And they're like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. Like, they're compliant, and they don't challenge beliefs like we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. They're just like, well, my parents are obviously smart, and like, whatever, it is what it is. Yeah. Not saying it's not possible, but I do see many successful people who have hard backgrounds, and I typically I'm not seeing a lot of people who came from wealthy family backgrounds who are going through the trenches, because they've never done that. They just don't know what that means,
Yeah. Nick, would you say that having a life partner, would you say that getting married has removed the FOMO from entrepreneurship for you?
Like remove the FOMO as in...
Serge kind of talked about a second ago, like when you're in entrepreneurship, for a lot of people, it's just not worth it to give up, like, going out and going on a lot of dates and having a lot of experiences, going to parties.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Do you feel like having found a life partner this early in your journey has made it easier to go through entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think like it's pros and cons, like everything, you know what I mean? It's like, I think, pros, it's, yeah, I mean, I don't, if I'm not going out, it's like, what am I missing out on? I'm not gonna go out. I'm not looking for anyone. I'm not looking for anything. If I want to go out, it's with my friends that I already know. And it's like, I don't do that much, honestly, outside of work. Go to the gym, I jump in the ocean, I come out, I get back to work. So, that said, like that can be seen as a pro, because I'm focused, I'm dialed in, and she's with me on the journey. So it's like, I feel like I'm not building for myself. It's like, I'm building for us. I'm building for our future. I'm building so that we can have experiences together. And that's very motivating to have someone beside me. And I can see like, how hard she's working. And I'm just like, well, shit, like, it's like, I gotta make this work for both of us. And there's a kind of a good pressure on me in that respect. So I wouldn't say it's like a FOMO thing. I think it's more honestly just like, I find that it can be something that's difficult, right? Because it's like, you look at a couple like Alex and Layla Hormozi, and it's like, Layla, they just love working, like maybe to a greater extent. Like, I don't know if we're like that. I don't know if we're fully like that. We're kind of like that, but it's like, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could just hit the off button. Like, ideally, my motivation is to have her just focus on her art, because I think that's ultimately what she would really like to do. And I know that's what really excites her in life. She's an artist. She studied drawing and painting, and she's really good at it, And it's like, it's one of those things that you know, when you're coming up and you're trying to have that stability in life, it's like, how do you focus, right? It's like Serge said something earlier about, you know, just like, when you're building, it's like you can't, when you're in scarcity mode, how do you build a great business? You don't build a great organization. It's the same thing as like with anything, right? Art, making art in that way is a business. And it's like you can't really take risks that you need to take if you're just like struggling paycheck to paycheck, or if you're working another job in order to make art and whatever. And that's why we chose this path, because we were both on a different path to maybe going more of a creative route. But, you know, we ended up going down this path for the freedom and for the ability to do whatever we want. And that's a very deep, authentic desire that, you know, is important to us. And so
I love what you just said about the scarcity mindset applying to everything, including art, because I got into entrepreneurship because of art as well. I wanted to be a musician growing up, and I got to an age where I suddenly started needing to support myself financially, but I wanted to dedicate all my time to music. So my mindset with music shifted from creating for the joy of creating to I need to learn how to make money off this now, right? And so following trends, and Serge, you touched on this again, you want to play the game your own way, not like how other people play it to win necessarily. But when you start making music or making any form of art in order to make a living, and you have that outcome tied to it now, you're outcome dependent, it loses, it's no longer a passion, it's not a hobby, it's like, it's survival. And I ended up quitting music multiple times because I got to a point where I was completely uninspired. And I realized to myself, I need to find another source of income and put music on the side completely and scale this and create a real source of income for myself so that I can go back to music from a place of abundance and not scarcity.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, in my opinion, that's the only way to do it, because I tried it the other way and it wasn't it. It's like, if you want to get good at your craft, it's like, okay, well, you need to buy expensive supplies. You're going to be struggling to buy those supplies. It's like, you want to maybe get mentorship or take some classes or something like that. And it's like, you're not able to do that. You can't build anything great from a place of scarcity. And that's why it didn't work. And that's why, you know, I would like ideally for us to get to a place where we're comfortable, you know, and we've delegated everything, and I can just let her go in a good way. I'd be like, you're removed from this. You don't need, like, we did this together, and like, I'm very proud of this, but it's like, if you want to go, like, there's no obligation to be here, like, you know, because we've made a scalable process. We've made a system that allows us to rely on the talent of others who are more talented than us and more skilled than us, because I know those people are out there. Right. And that's the goal as a business owner. You don't want to be owning a job. You want to be owning a company, right? Yeah.
Nick has some really, a big part of entrepreneurship, I think, is often overlooked is the mental health aspect, right? And like, Nick has some great stories, and all three of us, I'm sure, have been through it, but like, being at a point where you're not only relying on yourself as an entrepreneur, like, you need to make that money to feed your employees, and they come before you, right? Like, stories of like having to pull out a loan or put the rest of your credit limit on paying a staff member before you pay for your own groceries. Serge, do you mind asking Nick a question related to leading into like mental health as an entrepreneur, so that he can kind of talk about that a little bit?
How?
Saying something along the lines of, what angle do you want to talk about this from, Nick? Do you want to kind of talk about that financial angle of like that pressure? Do you want to talk about relationship pressure? What's the biggest pressure you've had as an entrepreneur in your life, mental health wise? You could even just start with a statement, and then you can play off it. You can even just say like, mental health is often overlooked in entrepreneurship. Like, this shit is hard. It's not easy. It takes a toll on you, you know?
Yeah. Just say it in a way that like you feel is like true to your beliefs and whatever. Yeah.
You know, running a company is sometimes, I mean, it can be lonely. You're having to deal with situations where you have to choose between your own convenience and actually having to take care of maybe people like your team, or, you know, having to choose between two hard, you know, choices. What are some of the situations where you have had to kind of like make, you know, those hard decisions, but have to choose, you know, and not have to put yourself first?
Right. Yeah, there's certainly been times that have been tough. It's like in the beginning stages when you're really trying to grow and you're trying to make something beyond yourself. It's like now, it's like going from that place where you're basically like a well-paid freelancer. It's like now taking that and being like, I need to go pay someone else, train them, ensure that they're able to do whatever it is that I'm paying them to do. Like that was something like early on that I had a challenge with. Like first of all, I had a hard time even deciding like, what is the criteria? Like, what do I need to look for in a person that I'm going to be hiring, especially a first hire or second hire? Cause that's pretty important.
Yeah.
This is like the first time you're taking the company outside of yourself. So it's like that decision making, and even just like thinking to yourself on a regular basis, am I making the right decision? Did I choose the right person? Did I interview enough people? Am I looking for experience, or what is it that I'm looking for? Right. So, those are some things that were challenging. And even just from a financial standpoint, like trying to build, when, it's like you're early on, and it's like, having to pay people, like I've definitely maxed out my credit lines before needing to pay my staff first, before my own needs. We made it through, but it's definitely, it can be you can be in a tough place financially where you're just like, okay, like, what is going on here? Geez, like I'm, and that's like ultimately, I think people don't understand, right? They look at entrepreneurs like, oh my God, it's so easy. You guys make so much money and everyone wants to do it. It's again a mimetic desire, but at the end of the day, it's like, are they willing to do that? Are they willing to go take out a loan or put like a salary on their credit card or credit line because they can't afford to pay it for the cash flow they have at the moment? That's it's a pretty tough place to be in. So
it definitely takes balls to run a company.
Oh yeah. I think it's overlooked. It's overlooked a lot.
1,000%. Yeah. We'll need to wrap up, guys.
Yeah.
Because I think it's
I heard a knock. Okay. Great.
Cool.
So, I mean, it was a pleasure as always. I'm really glad that we were able to just chop it up and chat about business and life. Yeah. It's great. It's great being here in Montreal, and it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, 1,000%, man. No, thanks for coming through, and for dinner. I think dinner last night was pretty good. I think we got to talk about some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And man. No, more of these, some in some different locations. Will be definitely fun.
Absolutely, yeah. I gotta come at you next time with a big level up. So
let's go. You know how we do it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Guys, thank you so much. Thanks. I think this was good. You killed it. Thanks for everyone for watching.
Thanks, guys.